Okay, we're going to continue down the digestive system. It was brought to my attention that on the previous video, I did not show notes on the stomach, so I'm just going to restart with the stomach right now. So those of you who are here in class, you probably have a few lines here. Just bear with me as I get this jotted down officially. All right, your stomach is located underneath the left side of your chest. It's the upper left side of your abdominal cavity. It is a temporary storage tank. Food will stay in your stomach for a few hours. If you throw up and you throw up food that you just ate, it was still in your stomach. I have a great question for you. When you throw up food, why could it not be from your intestine? Fletcher? The gastrointestinal sphincter won't let it go up. So the sphincter basically is like you can't go backwards. That's good. It's also called your pyloric sphincter. All right. Your stomach can break down food chemically and mechanically. Now, as far as the chemical aspect is concerned, do you recall what the name of the digestive enzyme is that your stomach primarily produces? It's pepsin. Pepsin breaks down what macromolecule? Peptides, proteins, right. Also, there's another one called hydrochloric acid. When you throw up and if your throat and your mouth burns real bad, it's because of this acid. What is the pH level of water? 7. The pH level of hydrochloric acid is around 2. It's very acidic. And as far as the mechanical part is concerned, what are the contractions of smooth muscle in your digestive system called? Peristalsis. Your stomach literally churns. Okay. Now, when you swallow food, it's a mixture of food and saliva. What is that little ball of food and saliva called that you swallow down your esophagus? A bolus. Well, we have another name that's kind of like another mixture. It's a mixture of food and your gastric juices. By the way, when you see the term gastro or gast, that means stomach. Gastrointestinal, gastroesophageal, gastritis, gastroenterologist. Anytime you hear gastro, that's stomach. Okay? So, the mixture of food and gastric juices is called chyme. Chyme, 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 chyme. Not chime, not Chinese. Chyme is pronounced chyme. All right, let's go over some of the gross anatomy. What does it mean to have gross anatomy? It's visible to the eye without any technology or aids necessary. All right, your stomach is located in your upper left quadrant. Oops. Of the abdominal cavity. So underneath your left chest, right around here where my hand is, right here, that's your stomach. It is behind your ribs. Your ribs are still there. So if you walk around your hands around your belly button, you're like, oh, my tummy hurts. That's not your tummy. What are those organs near your belly button? It's your intestines. Okay. An empty adult stomach is about 10 inches long, 6 to 10 inches. It can expand quite a bit when it's filled up with food. There's a reason for that. The interior of your stomach has large folds called, here's another term, rugae. What does having a bunch of folds on the inside of it have to do with filling up with food? It can expand its surface area. That's exactly right. If you were to roll up your long sleeve, you're gonna have a bunch of folds and wrinkles in your long sleeve. Then you stretch the sleeve out, those folds disappear. But as a result, you're able to stretch your sleeve out even further and expand the surface area. So your stomach, when empty, has all these rugae, just all these folds inside. And when it fills up with food, it can really stretch out and get bigger and bigger and bigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little break from writing. We're going to draw ourselves a stomach, okay? So let's start with the esophagus. Yeah, that's kind of bad. We're going to curve here. Let's continue. There we go. Okay, I'll give you a minute to catch up on that. There's your stomach. That's going to be the outer lining of it. And let's make ourselves an inner lining. There we go. And inside the stomach, you're going to have these long folds. This is the rugae I'm talking about. So get that drawn, and then we're going to label several parts of it, okay? We'll start in the beginning, and we will work our way all the way down. All right, everyone. What is this structure here? Technically not part of the stomach. That's the esophagus. And what is the name of the sphincter that is at the end of the esophagus and at the beginning of the stomach? It is the cardiac sphincter. What is another name for it? Gastroesophageal sphincter. Okay. Next, this large area at the top of the stomach, right over here that I'm highlighting in blue, this part of the stomach actually has a name, and you're going to need to know this one. This part of the stomach is called the fundus. And what are these folds on the inside of the stomach called? Rugae. Okay, we're almost done with our little diagram. This portion of the stomach, which is kind of like the inside where it bends, is called the lesser curvature, where it curves, obviously. And then this part over here on the opposite side is the greater curvature. Okay, a couple more. Whoops. What sphincter is this called here at the end of your stomach that leads to your small intestine? That is the pyloric sphincter. That's what I had surgery on when I was 5 weeks old. And then last part, what is this portion of your small intestine that is the beginning of your small intestine? This is the duodenum. That's about it. What do we call the contractions that the stomach actually performs to push food past the pyloric sphincter into the duodenum? Don't overthink it. You know this term. This is peristalsis. The stomach performs peristalsis to force food past the pyloric sphincter and forces food into your stomach. And let me tell you what happened to me when I was 5 weeks old. My pyloric sphincter wouldn't open. There's a ring of muscle around your pyloric sphincter that when food is supposed to go through it, the muscle loosens and allows the sphincter to open. Food goes in your stomach or your intestine, excuse me. Well, your stomach will push and it'll push food into your intestine. Let's even figure out what happens when the sphincter won't open. If your pyloric sphincter won't open and your stomach is pushing food peristaltically, what's the only other place for the food to go? Up. And my parents said I would projectile vomit. Like I can knock one of those pennants behind you off the hook 20 feet away. It was just like the dinosaur from Jurassic Park. And that's a definite sign. It's more common in males than females. So one of you never know, might have a little boy one day that might have this. So it's called pyloric stenosis. The term stenosis means like pinched. Some people can get stenosis in their spine. They can get stenosis perhaps in their cardiac sphincter. It just means it's pinched, and they just had to open me up and just loosen the muscle, and I was fine. And allowed food to go through into the duodenum. All right. Are there any questions on our diagram of the stomach so far? Carson, you good? Great. Then I'm good. All right. Now, your stomach is made of smooth muscle. So do you have control of it? Nah. So what part of your nervous system actually controls your stomach? Your autonomic nervous system or your somatic nervous system? That's correct. The stomach is served by the autonomic nervous system. You do not have control of your stomach movements and contractions. No one sits there and says, shh, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. I'm focusing on digesting my food. No, the only thing that we do with that is we sleep, because all your energy is going towards your digestive system. Okay, well, again, all those contractions will turn big parts into little parts. Now, let's get into the microscopic anatomy of your stomach. Microscopic, excuse me. Okay, what Latin term means stomach? Gastro. So you have juices called gastric juices. You have glands called gastric glands. Gastric glands produce gastric juices. Okay, There's going to be two types of cells I'm going to ask you to know for your stomach. The first type are going to be called parietal cells. Parietal cells secrete hydrochloric acid, very, very powerful acid. In chemistry, we call it HCl, not HCI, HCl. That's in hydrogen and chlorine. Hydrochloric acid is very potent. It's a very strong acid. In fact, when you throw up, it can probably burn your throat and your mouth. I'll tell you why it doesn't burn your stomach. Your stomach has something that your throat and your mouth doesn't. Now, not only does it secrete hydrochloric acid, it also secretes intrinsic factor. I want to talk about hydrochloric acid first and why we need to know about that. When you swallow food, the presence of food in your stomach will cause the secretion of pepsin and hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid activates pepsin. And when you have pepsin, tell me again, what macromolecule can be digested? Peptides, proteins. Intrinsic factor is required for the digestion and absorption of vitamin B. I don't know if they teach this to you guys in health class or HOPE or anything like that, so this will be news to me. Do you guys know what vitamin K does for you? What? Vision. Like there's a lot of vitamin K in carrots, helps in vision. Do you know what vitamin B does for you? Energy. If you're feeling sluggish or tired, get a little vitamin B pill. That'll perk you right up. Vitamin B is very important for energy, so it's important that you have it in your diet, or you're just going to be just dreary all the time. That's going to be absorbed in your small intestine. We'll get to the small intestine hopefully on Monday, next class. That is the site of the majority of digestion. All right, and the other type of cell that I want you to know, whoops, hold on, is going to be chief cells. Chief cells produce pepsinogen. Pepsinogen is basically inactive pepsin. I know you guys are just learning this for the first time. It typically takes 24 hours for some of this to sink in, but you have it right in front of you. What other juice in your stomach activates the pepsinogen and makes it pepsin? Hydrochloric acid will. Same stuff that you tend to puke up. And it's very important you remember what Fletcher said. The reason when you throw up, the food that you may see, like let's say you had a bag of Doritos, you throw up an hour later, you see the Doritos in your puke. That was still in your stomach, but you're not going to have food that's in your intestines vomited because it would have to go past your pyloric sphincter in the reverse direction, and it's not going to do that. Okay, the last part of your stomach we're going to get to today is your mucosal barrier. And I'll show you guys some pictures of the stomach, and then we'll move on. Your stomach has a layer of mucus. Because it's not as strong as the pyloric sphincter, it's looser. And sometimes things need to get out of your stomach. You know, if you have poisons in your stomach, you need to throw that up. When people drink too much alcohol, for example, they get sick and they throw up. That's their body's way of saying, get this out of me. There are cases where sometimes you need to have contents of your stomach released. Also, there's some animals out there like birds where a mother seagull flies out in the ocean, catches food, and the only way she can bring it back is in her stomach. Then she flies back to the nest and regurgitates it back into her baby's mouth. That's how baby birds feed. So you have some creatures, some species have to be able to regurgitate as a necessity. So you want that sphincter to be looser than your pyloric sphincter. All right. Your mucosal barrier. It produces a mucus layer within the stomach, which protects the inner lining from HCl. The reason why your stomach doesn't suffer the same fate that your throat and your mouth might when you throw up and you feel that burning of the acid is that you have a mucous membrane that protects your stomach from the acid. Your esophagus and your mouth does not have this mucous membrane, and that's what can cause the burning. When people say, I have heartburn, that has nothing to do with your heart. It's just that your esophagus is near your heart, in your chest, and people just tend to say, oh, you know, my heart's on fire. It's not your heart, it's your chest. It's called acid reflux. It's coming up. What do you call an area of your stomach wall where there is no mucus and the acid is actually eroding away at the wall? That is called an ulcer. Erosion within the stomach wall is called a peptic ulcer. I'll try to show you some pictures of some ulcers. Many ulcers are caused by the bacteria H. pylori. You guys have, and I'm going to teach you this at the end of this entire lesson, probably early next week. Let's just pretend, hypothetically, to make the numbers really, really simple, that Carson here is made up of 100 cells. Now, that's not true. That's nowhere close. She's 100 trillion cells, okay? But let's just say she's 100 cells. Hypothetically, keep the numbers easy. So Carson isn't, you don't need to write this down. Carson is an organism that is 100 cells. That's not true. She's 100 trillion cells. I'm just trying to keep the numbers easy. She has 100 times as much bacteria living in her body. So if the organism that we know of as Carson Cheeseman, she is a multicellular organism that is, quote unquote, 100 cells, air quotes. The number of microorganisms that lives in Carson is going to be 100 times that. So we're talking like 10,000. You have about 100 times the amount of bacteria living in your body than you have than yourself. And here's the thing. These are good bacteria. You need them to digest a lot of food that you would not be able to digest without them. They enter your body and they take up residence. And they kind of have a deal with your immune system. And I'll teach you this probably on Tuesday. The deal is, so long as you don't exit the digestive system, you're safe. But if you try to get into the bloodstream or get into some muscles, you're dead. White blood cells are going to get you. So it's like a little deal. Stay in the digestive tract, you're fine. Leave the digestive tract, you're dead. Not every bacteria that enters your digestive system is good, though. Some are bad. And this particular bacteria is one of the bad ones. You need an antibiotic for that to try to kill it. It's eating away at your stomach and your lining of your stomach. So after this last bullet, I'm going to show you some pictures of ulcers. The last thing real quick is gastritis. You should be able to translate this one pretty easy. What does itis mean? If I have appendicitis, tonsillitis, hepatitis, inflammation. Inflammation of what in this case? Inflammation of the stomach wall. All right, you can take a little break from writing before we move on to the liver. And I want to show you some pictures of ulcers and some stomachs, okay? Yes, Jacob, go ahead. All right. So here's the stomach. Here's what you, it's pretty close to what you drew. If y'all take a look, you have 1, 2, 3 layers of muscle surrounding your stomach. Your stomach is very powerful. And that's not counting the outer serosa, which is the outermost layer. What are all these little folds called all up in here? Rugae. What's this sphincter up here? Cardiac sphincter. What is this sphincter down here? The pyloric, or some people call it the pylorus, same thing. What is this top part of your stomach called? The fundus, okay. Now, if you look over here, here is an ulcer. It's a hole in your stomach. It can be caused by bacteria, or it can be caused by an area of your mucus wall that is basically missing mucus and the acid is burning through. There's an actual picture of an ulcer. And it can actually cause contents of your stomach, gastric contents, to leak into your abdominal cavity. That would not be good. That can lead to something called diverticulitis, where you have your bacteria that's supposed to be in your stomach and poop and other stuff leaking into your abdominal cavity. Not fun. Here is the normal peristalsis of your stomach. Notice how it can really contract and churn. And I want you to really focus on this. Food is pushed into your intestine through your pyloric sphincter. Now, in a case like what I had when I was a little baby, when your stomach is doing all this contracting, and if that pyloric sphincter isn't going to open, what's the only other place for it to go? Up. And I was puking like crazy. As my parents said, something is wrong with this kid. All right, let's see. Let's just continue to take a little bit of a break. I'll switch over the projector or the Zoom here in a sec. Let's look up some ulcers, see if I can find some. So if you're watching online, just hang on a sec. Let's put gastric ulcers. There's lots of different types. All right, let's switch it over. Here we go. Okay, let's see if we actually have some photos. Ooh, there's an ulcer in your duodenum on the left, and there's an ulcer in your stomach on the right. And the problem is that some of the contents of your stomach can actually leak through and get into your abdominal cavity. Yes, Natalia, go ahead. So you have to get that, patched up. Oh, that's a bad one. All right, let's finish off this class with the liver. I definitely switched, Julia, so I'm back to the notebook. I'm glad you told me that last night. All right, let me just double check, make sure. Okay, good. All right, the last one we can get to today, we have about 18 minutes left, is going to be your liver. Does food enter your liver? It does not. Okay, well, I guess I can't use a different color. It's not going to let me. Whatever. All right. The prefix for your liver, just like gastro means stomach, in the liver, hepa or hepato means liver. What STD begins with hepa? Hepatitis. Yeah, you don't want to get that. Hepatitis can be really bad. There's some types of hepatitis we do have vaccines for, others we do not have vaccines for. So the rule is don't get it. That's the best advice. The liver is an accessory organ. This means food does not enter it. But the reason that it is a digestive organ is that it produces digestive juices. It is located in the top right quadrant of the abdominal cavity. And when we dissect the pigs, I think you guys will be amazed with how large it is. You might think it's the same size as your stomach. No, it's a lot bigger. So when you see that liver, it is the largest internal organ. Your liver has 4 lobes, 4 separate parts. And something else that's really cool about the liver is that it is capable of regenerating itself. But if enough of it is intact, it can regenerate itself. This is sometimes the excuse that alcoholics say, I can drink all I want, my liver will grow back. The liver can only take so much punishment. And then eventually it just taps out and says, I quit. And that's when you get cirrhosis of the liver, liver failure, other diseases. So it's not impenetrable. Blood is delivered to the liver via the hepatic portal. And I want you guys to try to fill in the blank here. What do you call blood vessels that take blood from the heart to the organs and tissues? Artery. Yes, this is the hepatic portal artery. It is a very special artery that goes straight to your liver and only your liver. And so if the hepatic portal artery takes blood to your liver, what do you call the blood vessel that takes blood back from your liver to the heart? The hepatic portal vein. Blood is returned to the heart from the liver via the hepatic portal vein. Veins bring blood to the heart, arteries bring blood to the body. Okay. What digestive enzyme did you learn that was on your quiz yesterday that is made in your liver but not stored in your liver? Bile. The liver produces bile. And what does bile break down? It breaks down fat into fatty acids. I'm going to make a little drawing for you. It's not going to be really super detailed like your stomach was. This is just going to be really easy for you to comprehend some of the anatomy here of the flow of bile. So let's just make this really easy on ourselves, okay? Here's your liver. I don't think it get much easier than that. This is your gallbladder. What does your liver and your gallbladder empty into? Does it empty into your stomach? No, not your stomach. Where's it empty into? Small intestine. Very good. This is the duodenum. All right. So here is why I wanted to do this one. There are several ducts, D-U-C-T-S, ducts that bile will travel down. All right. Bile leaves the liver via the hepatic duct. This is the hepatic duct right here. The cystic duct branches from the gallbladder. This is the cystic duct right here. And they both meet, like two roads will join to form one. This duct right here that I'm highlighting in blue is where they join. The two ducts fuse to form the common bile duct. Right there. So you have the hepatic duct that comes from the liver, the cystic duct that comes from the gallbladder. The two of them will meet and they will form the common bile duct, and they will empty their contents into the duodenum, the small intestine. Know those ducts, especially the common bile duct. That was really important. It's also used by your pancreas. Okay, we have about 10 minutes left. I want to finish off today's class with talking about bile specifically. I should probably use green for this, given that I'm talking about bile. Here we go. Bile is a yellow-green solution. When the gallbladder is full, the gallbladder actually looks like it's kind of a greenish yellowish color. It contains bile salts, which are going to be really important. I'm going to put a little star next to bile salts. So it's going to be important to discuss. Bile pigments, cholesterol, triglycerides, and phospholipids. Would anyone be able to tell me what do cholesterol, triglycerides, and phospholipids all have in common? They're all lipids, or someone whispered. They are all lipids. They're nonpolar. They're made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Okay, well, here's why I put a little star next to bile salts. Bile salts are actually very important. That's an ugly star. That's better. Bile salts. They play a crucial role in digestion and absorption of fats. There are some people that have to have their gallbladder removed because you can get bile stones, or not bile stones, excuse me, gallstones. I don't know why I said bile stones. They can get gallstones, and that's basically an accumulation of these salts. And if you have a gallbladder removed, you're going to be asked to reduce your diet of fat, not cut fat out entirely, but you need to reduce the fat in your diet, because you're no longer going to have a gallbladder that can hold bile, which can break down fat. So if one of you one time in your life says, okay, we have to take out your gallbladder, and then your prognosis is you're going to be fine, just you need to really reduce the amount of fat in your diet, because now the bile is going to go straight from your liver to your intestine, gallbladder not needed. And you want to reduce the amount of bile necessary. Okay. I want to tell you a little fun fact here. Bilirubin makes bile its color. I'm going to get somewhere really interesting for you all. Bilirubin is bile pigment, which is like a yellowish color. Yeah, this is not something I want you to know. Perhaps I'll make it extra credit. But this is also like really, this answers an age-old question, Mason. Why is my poop brown? We're going to learn that right here, right now. I know you've been wondering. Bile pigment is yellow waste. It's a yellow waste product of heme from hemoglobin. Do you remember what hemoglobin does for your blood? What does it allow your red blood cells to carry? Hemoglobin allows your red blood cells to carry O2. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Hemoglobin is from blood. When your blood cells get old and they die, the hemoglobin is going to be taken from them. And that heme is going to help to make bile pigment, which is bilirubin. So let's get all this understood so far. The reason why bile is yellow is basically because of the protein in your blood. When your blood is old and it breaks down and is degraded, the protein goes from your old blood cells into your bile. All right, let's continue down this rabbit hole. Bilirubin will then be extracted from bile. So it's kind of like you're taking the yellow out of the bile, right, Carson? The bilirubin will then be metabolized within the small intestine. It'll be metabolized into stercobilin. So bilirubin, which came from your hemoglobin, will be metabolized into stercobilin. This gives feces its brown color. So it's kind of a long jog here. I like to say it's a long walk, but the reason why your poop is brown is it is from the hemoglobin of old red blood cells going into your bile, making your bile the color that it is, yellow. That's called bilirubin. The bilirubin is extracted from your bile and it is metabolized to stercobilin. And the stercobilin gets in your feces and it makes it brown. Do you have any idea what color your poop would be if it wasn't for the stercobilin, which came from the bilirubin, which came from your blood?
Red.
Not red, not yellow.
White.
Not white. You're close.
Blue.
Blue? No, that's a little intense. Gray. Your poop would be gray without the hemoglobin from your blood. The reason why bird poop is white is because they don't have kidneys. They pee and poop in the same mess. So it's just like they don't have, they also have some digestive enzymes that we have, they don't. So their poop is like black and white. But yeah, birds don't have kidneys, so they pee and poop at the same time. That one big bird crap, that's pee and poop in there. Okay, we have 3 minutes. Last thing for today, I promise. Hepatitis. Don't ever get it. What does hepatitis literally mean? Inflammation of the liver. Itis means inflammation, and then you have to look at the prefix, inflammation of the liver. Causes, well, there's several. Alcohol, drugs, mushrooms, no, weird, right? And viruses. There are up to 6 hepatitis viruses. Drugs. Hep A and E are transmitted by contaminated food. There was a restaurant in Ybor City called Hamburger Mary's. You ever been there? Well, you can't go there anymore because they closed it down due to a hepatitis outbreak. Yeah, I think it closed down before COVID happened. There was a server that had it, and the server is touching food and giving it to customers, and this is how you get it, contaminated food. Not good. Hep B And C is transmitted via blood. C is the worst. It's the most infectious. And there are some hepatitis. I can't remember where. I have to tell you guys on Monday. There's some hepatitis that we don't have vaccines for. So the number one recommendation is don't get it, because once you get it, it's gonna be really tough. All right, we're gonna stop there. We're done with the liver.